All right, welcome to another episode of Inside IALR. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Daniel Dalton for producing. So we have a fun interview today about apprenticeships in Southern Virginia. So we have three guests. I'm going to introduce them all three of them real quick, and then we'll get off and start talking. But we have Natori Neal, who's our apprenticeship coordinator here at IALR. She helps a lot of businesses and organizations in Southern Virginia, navigate the apprenticeship process. We have Jamie Lynn Lindley from Comfort Systems USA MidAtlantic. She's the Outreach Recruiting and Training Manager. And then we also have Johnny Mills, who is the CEO of the Danville Lifesaving Crew. First, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. But Natori, we'll start with you real quick and just have you kind of give us a super quick rundown of sort of what is our involvement in apprenticeships in Southern Virginia?
Sure. So the Institute is essentially a Virginia division of Registered Apprenticeship Intermediary. We work between industry employers and the state division of Registered Apprenticeship to essentially provide the Registered Apprenticeship education. We provide the program development assistance and also the program registration assistance needed to register programs. We also have the grant funding available to support employers through related technical instruction cost and, of course, best practices for program sustainability and that sort of thing. So that's how we play in our intermediary space with the Virginia Division of Apprenticeship.
And for those who don't know, what is an apprenticeship? Super quick.
Of course. So Registered Apprenticeship is industry-driven. It's an employment training solution that combines on-the-job training with something that we like to call related technical instruction or classroom training that provides the individuals with the occupational skill sets needed to become proficient within the occupation. It allows for the employer to supply a pipeline of skilled talent for their workforce because apprentices are employees from day one. They are hired, they're paid at progressive wages, and they receive those increases as their skills grow, and ultimately leading to a journey worker credential and hopefully retention with that employer. And then those apprentices turned journey workers or skilled employees can then train the next apprentices as mentors, therefore creating that pipeline of skilled talent.
We're involved with a lot of different companies and as you said, in different ways. Sometimes where we're serving as the program sponsor, and other ways you're sort of helping the company set up their own programs. So Jamie and Johnny, for Comfort Systems USA MidAtlantic, and then for the Danville Lifesaving Crew, tell us a little bit about the apprenticeship programs that you all have running at your organizations.
So with the Danville Lifesaving Crew, this was a new adventure for us through EMTs. Historically, we would look for EMTs that were already established somewhere and try to hire them, or if they were fortunate enough to be able to pay for the training, we would get them that way. With the apprenticeship program, this was really unique for us because we were able to select a group of individuals that had the right mentality, the right caring attitude, just didn't have the ways or the means to go through the certification for finances. So this allowed us to bring that group together and to create this class that these individuals probably wouldn't be able to do without the assistance of the apprenticeship program. So this was very, very unique and exciting for us.
Mm-hmm. And that launched recently.
Yes, just recently. They're actually in their first 10 weeks of training now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then Jamie, what about for you all?
Yeah, so for Comfort Systems, similar story. In the constructions and trade industry, we find ourselves where the average age is about 46 of a field employee, and we're not getting new talent. So we saw the problem of we've got to grow our own talent in some way, shape, or form. There's about 600,000 job opens in the construction industry alone right now that can't be filled. So that's kind of how we went down this path. So right now we currently have a registered plumbing apprenticeship, and we currently have a youth registered welding apprenticeship, with plans to grow the additional trades within our industry too, as we figure this program out with Tori.
And when did you all launch your first program?
So our plumbing apprenticeship launched in spring of this year.
Okay.
And our welding apprenticeship just launched within the past month
or so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I think it's interesting, having these different perspectives of, Johnny, you're talking about for EMTs. I think that's a less traditional, when you think of apprenticeship, that's a much less traditional sector. Whereas what you're talking about for welding and the trades, that's much, at least for me, that's more what I think of when I think of when I think of apprenticeship. So Natori, and I'll open it up for you guys too. Talk about some of the different sectors that we work with, and then sort of how those sectors were chosen.
Sure. So, like Jamie Lynn was saying, one of the most common sectors is construction and utilities. Although there are a lot of job openings currently within the construction and utilities sector, Registered Apprenticeship still has a lot of space for training and development and developing that next generation of talent. So construction is the most common, but what we're seeing is a push towards some non-traditional sector apprenticeships, such as the ones in healthcare and emergency medical services. Even early childhood education and teacher apprenticeships are becoming more popular within Virginia and nationally. One of the major barriers that we face in the apprenticeship sector as an intermediary, and then our partners on the state level towards pushing those non-traditional apprenticeship sectors, is the misconception that apprenticeship isn't a fit for healthcare, isn't a fit for IT. And those misconceptions are what we're trying to overcome through education and through demonstrating through companies like the Danville Life Saving Crew, that apprenticeship can be done in non-traditional sectors.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense too. It's the whole point is to provide on-the-job training. So if you can do that in other sectors in a way that, as you were talking about, Johnny, in a way that you're opening the door for new people to join.
It's almost very common to the trades that we're short-staffed, and if you look at an EMT, their average time in that position is 3 to 4 years, and then they transition out. So we're turning over complete personnel, and they tend to either go to more education. They may go to a paramedic. They may be going to be a nurse or a doctor. Also, it's growing. If you look, our EMS calls in the city of Danville are 40 to 50 calls in a 24-hour period. When I first got into this business in '82, it was 10 calls in a 24-hour period. So, the Department of Labor anticipates that over the next 20 years, we're going to see a 7% increase, and that over top of what we're turning over, this created a perfect answer for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing that businesses are starting to see across the board, no matter what sector we're in, is that we really have to think outside of the box of how can we train the next generation. And I think Johnny and his team is a great example of that, something very non-traditional. And so, from my perspective, because I work really closely with our CTE and CTA programs as well, is that businesses that are struggling and don't necessarily think it's a fit for them just need to have that initial conversation to see if there's a way that they can bring this within their walls. So that's my plug for the IALR and apprenticeship programs.
I want to talk a little bit about keeping on this idea of those non-traditional sectors. So I know what you all developed for the Danville Life Saving Crew. That's the first registered EMT apprenticeship program in the entire state of Virginia. So what was that process like of developing a completely new program outside of those more traditional ones that are out there? And then sort of to play off that plug you just said, if an organization is interested in that, Natori, how do they go about setting up an apprenticeship program?
Sure. For the Danville Life Saving Crew specifically, being that it was the first registered apprenticeship program of its kind, an EMT apprenticeship, the process was a bit longer than what it would take our Comfort Systems to develop a plumber apprenticeship or a welding apprenticeship program. But the Danville Life Saving Crew, they already had the perfect framework to shape their program around because they piloted something called a Recruit Academy in the summer of, Johnny, was that 2022?
Yes.
Just last year.
Yeah.
Johnny first approached me, and I was 2 months or 3 months in. into my position at the Institute, brand new, we sat down and had the discussion about registered apprenticeship. It started with education. And so any business that's interested in developing a registered apprenticeship program can start by, having the conversation. What is registered apprenticeship? Start from there. How can it fit our company, or how can it fit our organization? And I'm very careful in customizing my message so that it makes sense for your company. So making it make sense for you. The Danville Life Saving Crew Registered Apprenticeship, it's also important to remember that it's industry-driven and customized. So when the Danville Life Saving Crew said, hey, we want to start a registered apprenticeship program, it was also an immediate, we want it to be for EMTs, and we want to use the Danville Area Training Center to provide the related technical instruction. Mm-hmm. So the Danville Life Saving Crew program was also unique in that they selected a private related technical instruction provider. And the Danville Area Training Center basically had to undergo this process of an application process that was reviewed by the state related technical instruction and education specialist. They had to undergo a site visit to ensure that the classroom space was adequate and that the instructors were qualified to teach their training, even though the Danville Area Training Center was already VDH accredited, or Virginia Department of Health accredited. There was also that separate application process to become that private training provider. And that had to be completed in order to actually list them on the registration paperwork as the related technical instruction provider. Mm-hmm. So it was those sorts of background, that sort of thing happening in the background that people really didn't hear about, working hand in hand with the Danville Area Training Center Director Brian Alderson and Assistant Director Emily Fowler to get us the information we need, the curriculum outlines, how they wanted the program to be developed, and then structuring that to adhere to minimum standards as stated nationally through registered apprenticeship programs and on the state level as well. So I do say it all starts with the conversation, and then from there, after the employer decides, hey, we want to have an apprenticeship program, and then it begins by the employer selecting the occupation. And then after that, I work hand in hand with the employer, extremely responsive, to decide, what is this on-the-job training going to look like? So we outline that in a works process schedule and select who's going to be providing that related technical instruction or that classroom training that supplements what they're learning, through on-the-job training. Danville Life Saving Crew's program was a bit different in that their related technical instruction was front-loaded. It had to come first. It couldn't go concurrently. So all of their classroom training is being done in that 10-week 40-hour a week training program, and their apprentices are being paid to do that. So for more traditional apprenticeship programs, the related technical instruction tends to happen concurrently. The apprentice may go to work, from 9 to 5, and then from 6 to 8, a few days a week, go to a training class or take a training class online, that sort of thing. So basically, after the program is developed, then we can proceed with the registration paperwork, which is pretty painless. It's a pretty painless process. It doesn't take long at all. And then from there, it may be a bit of a period of delay between when a program is developed to registration and then when it's actually ready to onboard apprentices or hire apprentices. The Life Saving Crews, started in May of last year, was officially registered in April of this year, and then they onboarded their first apprentices in October, which is fairly common, especially for a program like theirs. Comfort Systems may have had a bit of a different process.
Yeah, so ours, being that we started out with plumbing, which is what we identified as our biggest need, because if any of you guys have ever tried to call a plumber recently, that they're not out there. So, but the state already had a lot of this in place for us. So it was a little bit simpler. So they already had the works process, which we're just expanding upon to make specific to us. And then from there, it's recruiting the people in your organization and identifying who you want to put through this program. That probably took us longer than actually registering with the state. Once you get through that official first time and get your understanding of the paperwork gets a little bit easier. And then again, Tori's such a resource for that. But we were lucky as these already existed, and now we're just able to customize and tailor them to what we specifically need for our employees. So,
And I think, when Tori and I first talked, we realized it was a great idea initially, but it was very scary too, all the hoops that we had to jump through. And, I say thank you to you, Tori, because it helped breaking it down. And I think the big thing, once everybody else realized how good a program it was, is when we got all the right people within the disciplines in the same room and say, hey, this is really a great thing. And like I said, we just started biting little pieces off at a time until we got where we needed to be.
I want to talk about the benefits, and for the life-saving crew, we might not fully know that yet since that just launched last month. But for both of your organizations, how has having these apprenticeship programs, how has that helped your organization so far? And I mean, what do you see as the potential for apprenticeship in your organization moving forward? I know you mentioned, Jamie, maybe even adding more programs as you go. So
yeah, so for us, it's all about kind of a grow your own grassroots model at this point, because these kids aren't coming out, or even young adults aren't coming out with the knowledge and the skills that we need in the trades in general, but specifically within the commercial sector of the trades. So we're still really in the infancy, I would say, of our programs. But what we're seeing is we've got individuals that are excited about the program, and they're excited to be a part of it because it maps out a career path from them from day one. So, you go into this apprenticeship program. For us, it's a 4-year program. Like Tori mentioned at the end of it, they have their journey worker card. At that point, they can sit for an actual journeyman's license, which shortens the time that they need to do that. So if you're not going through an apprenticeship program in the trades, it's a much longer period, which then leads to them being able to step into leadership roles. And our model and goal, and I'll let you guys know in 3.5 years how it works out, is that these are going to be the next generation of leaders that are then training the next cohort of apprenticeships, and it's just going to be a continuous cycle. And then, like I mentioned, with the other trades, we hope to grow it to our welding for adults, HVAC, sheet metal is a big one for us. And just how that is how we're going to grow our staff moving forward realistically. And it creates a sense of loyalty too, right? Because as a company, we're investing in you from day one, and that's going to make you want to stay and work with us. And it's a great recruiting tool when we're talking to these kids that are in high school that don't know what they want to do next. And you tell them, well, you come work for me, and in 4 years, you can make X amount of money, buy your own car, have your own house, be a leader, and have little to zero debt because we're taking on the cost of everything. It just kind of really sparks their interest too. And that's where we're at with our program. It's just really trying to get people excited about the opportunities in the industry and how we can help them reach those goals.
And just for context, you all are based in South Boston, but then work all over Southern Virginia,
yes,
correct?
So we're based in South Boston, but we do about a 60-mile radius. So we're Southern Virginia and northern North Carolina too. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Our folks that we have in the apprenticeship program now, I was just talking earlier this morning about how united they are in a team spirit. And I can sit there and say, like Tori said, we're front-loaded. We have to go through some required training, some clinical work, and then they have to take their test. But I would dare say that I'm going to see 12 EMTs when this is all said and done. And I think the bigger picture for me, I'd love for them to have a good long career with us. But I think in the bigger picture, when I look back in it, I'm going to see a nurse or a paramedic or maybe even a doctor come out of that. So it's adding back to the community on a lot larger scale also for us.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And we've talked about it a little bit, but the idea that, not every apprenticeship program is different. The setup, obviously each one involves sort of on-the-job training, and then, Tori, as you've said, related technical instruction, or RTI is what they call that, so basically classroom time. So for, you said, Jamie, for you all, it's a 4-year program, and for Danville Life Saving Crew, it's a 1-year program, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just very interesting how all of those are different lengths, different approaches.
What's really neat, though, that I'll say about the trades is that and I'm sure it's like this with all apprentices, Tori can speak to that, but we are able to credit them for hours worked. So for plumbing, for example, they have to have 8,000 on the job training hours. But if they come to us with previous plumbing experience, we can work with Tori in the state to say, okay, well, we're going to allocate 2,000 hours of on-the-job training to this person, so that can shorten their program too. So if they do have prior experience, they can still benefit from these apprenticeship programs because it could still help them accelerate their career faster, and then with less time within the apprenticeship program itself. So even the 4-year programs aren't really locked in time to a 4-year, depending on the person.
Exactly. Apprenticeship is an excellent tool to upskill current employees. It's a great way to say, if you see someone who's currently working as a construction helper, identifying him and his or he or she in their hard work, and saying, you're doing great. We have this program, and we want to take you from construction helper to full carpenter or to become a full plumber. And, you already know the basics. You already have, your core skills. You know how to read a tape measure. You know how to, set up certain framework and that sort of thing, or whatever that specific job requires. And so from there, that's kind of how that previous credit can be granted towards the overall term of the apprenticeship, whether it's credit or experience on the job training experience that they've earned directly with the company they're working for currently, or if they came from another company to, let's say, to a Comfort Systems with 1 year of experience under their belt, and Comfort Systems saw something in that individual and said, hey, you seem like a great candidate for our plumber apprenticeship program. I saw that you've worked previously as a plumber helper in your, when you worked for another company. We'll give you credit for that. But we're also going to have you complete X number of on the job training hours and the related technical instruction. That full amount of related technical instruction is still needed to complete the apprenticeship term and reach their journey worker occupational status. So apprenticeship is an excellent way to upskill incumbent workers.
Yeah, no, and I've been working on writing a story about our involvement with apprenticeship programs, and actually the apprentice I talked to was already with the company, and just that where they selected him to upskill him through that. You mentioned, Jamie, that one of your programs is for youth, and I'll open this up to all of you. What is a youth apprenticeship, and how does that differ from a traditional apprenticeship that I guess anyone 18 or over can participate in?
So youth registered apprenticeship or registered apprenticeship work-based learning, it is a pathway directly into a career. So it's much like a registered apprenticeship program where the students are hired. But being that they're in high school, this is a program specifically for high school students, usually 16 or older. So being that they are 16 or older, they can participate in a registered apprenticeship program as a youth registered apprentice. If they are a youth registered apprentice, it basically means that they are getting on-the-job training from an employer within their occupational, interest. And then instead of the related technical instruction coming from, a community college or an online provider, while that apprentice is in school at age 16, 17, 18, or sometimes even 19, while they're in high school, their career and technical education classes that are occupation-specific or relevant to the occupation count towards related technical instruction. So they're getting credit for related technical instruction and on-the-job training. So when they graduate, any hours that they earned as a student transition seamlessly to their full adult apprenticeship. We don't expect a senior in high school that's starting as a plumber apprentice or a welding apprentice to complete a full 3 to 4 year apprenticeship term. So anything that they earn while they're in school through on-the-job training and any RTI, if it's specific to the occupation, transitions seamlessly to an adult registered apprenticeship program. For those students who aren't in CTE classes, who still want an avenue into registered apprenticeship or still want to participate in a registered apprenticeship program as a high school student. We call those registered apprenticeship work-based learning students. And those are just students who aren't taking CTE classes that are occupation specific or relevant to their occupation, but are still participating in on-the-job training. In this instance, the employer can, say, we're going to wait until after you graduate and pick up your related technical instruction then, or while you're working for us, we're going to cover the cost of your related technical instruction tuition to take these certain classes at, a certain community college or through an online provider. So there are two pathways and avenues for that, and both lead directly into a full adult apprenticeship program, especially if that employer decides, hey, within their probationary period, they're doing great, we want to keep them, and we're going to bring them on full-time after they graduate. While they're in school, they can work full-time in the summer or on breaks and stuff like that, but not in school. But they are paid employees from day one through a youth apprenticeship as well.
Yeah, and so for us with the youth apprenticeship, we've worked closely with the SVHEC in South Boston and then the Halifax High School CTE programs having interns for several years. This is the first year that we've actually brought on the youth apprenticeship registration aspect of it, but it's a benefit for us and the student, which is why we went that route. So that way, ideally, when we have these interns, the goal is to hire them full-time with us once they leave. But sometimes, they want to go off and do big things in the big world before they realize they don't want to travel and work. But this still benefits them if we have them in this program. They can take that registered apprenticeship hours with them anywhere. So that's kind of why it's a win-win for us and the students, which is why we decided to bring that on with them in addition to their normal internship this year. So anything we can do to help them expand upon their career is a benefit of it.
Well, I think this has been a good conversation. I think it's really, really cool to see, here at the Institute, we're all about, driving economic transformation. We're involved in a lot of different things, work with a lot of different organizations and partners, but that overarching mission is sort of behind everything we do. And I think, helping organizations across Southern Virginia set up apprenticeship programs to grow their workforce, which obviously benefits them and then benefits those students or those workers coming in as well is really cool to see. I'll just open it up to you guys. I mean, if there's anything else that you would want to add or any parting thoughts you'd want to share. And then Natori, real quick, if you just want to sort of share, I know this program is growing, so just tell us a little bit about where we're going and even the sort of consortium we're developing.
So far, we've helped develop 18 registered apprenticeship programs in the state of Virginia, and we have over, I think that number I just recently reported it's about 32 apprentices, but Comfort Systems added 2 yesterday. So we're at about 34 apprentices now since we started our initiative. And we're looking to add to that. So anything we can do to assist our industry partners, our workforce stakeholders, and education partners, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Institute and learn about our expanding talent through registered apprenticeship program. We are also looking forward to having more collaborative events between amongst apprenticeship employers and industry stakeholders with apprenticeship programs through our extra expanding through talent through registered apprenticeship consortium, which will be a network for employers, education stakeholders to come together, discuss best practices, discuss what's working, what's not working, have apprenticeship career fairs in the future or apprenticeship hiring events in the future specifically for their workforce or for opportunities that they have available. So that's what's coming up. You can also expect our extra website. It will be coming soon, and that'll serve as a resource for anyone interested in learning about registered apprenticeship. It will also help showcase our local apprenticeship sponsors and showcase them and their opportunities on our website, as well as any grant funding opportunities and that sort of thing. So we are looking forward to the future and are more than willing to help our community any way we can to expand talent through registered apprenticeship.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I'll open it up for you guys. I mean, any other last thoughts you would want to share?
Yeah, I would say the only thing, and this is from my personal experience, is that when you first start taking apprenticeship on, it can feel extremely overwhelming. But for businesses not to be put off by that, because you have the great resource with Tori here too. And then I think the biggest overwhelming part of that, and I'm sure you can really speak to this, is figuring out the RTI piece. But I've learned that the more you engage with the various resources that we have here between Tori and you've got DCC and SVHEC and even SVCC in our area, they want to help companies develop these programs. So I just encourage other businesses to start having the conversation, even if they're unsure at this point, to see what is available and how they can make this happen. Because it's not as overwhelming as it may initially seem when you first delving into it. So,
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, and I think don't be scared of the mountain, because like I said, it started out with us just having a conversation, and really didn't see anything coming out of it till 10 minutes into the conversation. It's like, oh man, this is really good. This is where we need to be at. So don't be scared.
Obviously, these are two great examples of programs that, as we've talked about, these are already having an impact on your organizations, will continue to have even more moving forward, but then also for those participants and those people who are upskilling or gaining new skills, definitely a great opportunity. So thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Megabytes IALR's on-site cafe features everyday favorites, convenient ordering options, and an eager staff ready to welcome and serve you. Our enticing menus offer something for everyone, from a fresh, well-stocked salad bar, wraps, sandwiches, and our rotating hot buffet offered on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Megabytes is open Monday through Friday from 9:15 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. To view menus and for more information, visit ilr.org/megabytes.